Hello chess enthusiasts, my name is Micha and welcome to my chessrealm YouTube channel. If you're following chess events, maybe you have come across a German team league or SchachBundesLiga as they call it. I found a very interesting game between a young Belgian grandmaster Daniel Dardha and Felix Klein, who is a FIDE master, much lower rating than his opponent, but still he played a very good game. So let's see what happened. Daniel Dardha had white pieces and he started with c4, e6, g3, d5, bishop to g2, knight to f6, now d4, and we have Catalan defense. Black plays c6, knight goes to d2, defending this pawn on c4. Black plays knight from b goes to d7, knight from g goes to f3, bishop to d6, and now queen to c2. So far pretty much normal developing, and now black castles king side, and of course white does the same. And now black has decided to strike the center with e5, threatening with e4, creating this strong pawn chain in the center. So white more or less has no other option but to capture some of the pawns. So c pawn captures on d5, c pawn recaptures, and now d pawn captures on e5. Black doesn't want to lose bishop pair, so knight captures on e5, and white has decided to trade some more pieces. Knight captures on e5, bishop recaptures, and now knight goes to f3, attacking defenseless bishop on e5. Of course, bishop has a few options, let's say d7, d6 or c7. Black has decided to play bishop goes to d6, and now white has decided to place this dark square bishop on the long diagonal. So bishop goes to e3, black plays bishop to e6, and now bishop to d4 is on the long diagonal, attacking this knight on f6, and black responds with knight to e4, placing his knight on a very strong central square. So first white plays rook from a goes to d1, extraying queen on e8. It's never good to have queen on the same file as a rook. You don't know what sort of tactics can come up. So queen goes to e7, and now knight goes to d2, double attack on this knight on e4, threatening to gain a pawn. Of course, black can capture knight on d2, but if black captures knight on d2 after rook recaptures, when this bishop is gone, white is putting a lot of pressure on this pawn on d5, who is only one time defended, and even if black tries to defend it more, than after rook from f to d1 is going to be 3 times attack, and this is going to be very difficult for black to hold on to. So in the game, black plays f5, further reinforcing his knight on e4, and white will definitely try to drive it away. First e3 was played, black responds with rook from f goes to d8, and now f3, attacking knight on e4. Black has no other option but to remove it somewhere. Of course, black can capture on d2, but black is not interested, so knight goes to f6. And now white says that this rook from a to c8, attacking the queen, is coming, so white plays knight goes to b3, clearing this d2 square, preparing removal of his queen, and this is what happened in the game. Rook from a goes to c8, attacking the queen, queen to f2, let's say somehow reinforcing this bishop on d4, who is also attacking a pawn on a7, so black plays b6 defending, and now white plays knight goes to c1. Well, white has a very simple plan, knight to d3 and later knight to e5, trying to occupy this strategically important e5 square, so black immediately reacts with bishop to f7, further increasing pressure on this e5 square, and white responds with bishop to h3, attacking pawn on f5. Of course, if black tries to defend with bishop to e6, of course black loses tempo, so black plays g6, defending pawn on f5, further weakening his position around his king. And white continues with knight to d3, of course with plan to occupy this central e5 square at some point. Now the material is equal. White has, let's say, a little better pawn structure, but black is controlling this c file, and black decides to use that, so rook goes to c7, preparing rook from d8 goes to c8, totally taking over the control over the c file. So white immediately counteracts with rook to c1, and black responds with rook to c8. White trades rook, so rook captures on c7, rook recaptures, and now rook goes to d1, and now black plays knight goes to d7, trying to neutralize this pressure on the e5 square, who is now 3 times defended, but white doesn't care. f4 was played, further reinforcing pressure on this e5 square, of course at the cost of weakening this e4 square. So Now black has decided to change the plan. Knight goes to c5. Well, first of all, yeah, attacking this knight on d3 and also preparing to maybe jump on this very weak e4 square. Of course, white could try to eliminate this knight on c5, but let's say bishop captures on c5 after b pawn recaptures, threatening with this c4, driving this knight away, but then black has a bishop pair, and it's very much more active, so this is probably very bad for white. And if, for example, knight captures on c5, then simply, again, b pawn recaptures, attacking the bishop. Bishop can only go to c3, but then after rook to d8, protecting this d pawn, preparing this d4 pawn push with bishop to c7, b6, trying to maneuvering with his pieces. Well, this is again probably much more active for black. So in the game, white plays queen to e2, defending this knight on d3 with queen, and now black has decided to occupy this e4 square with knight. Now this is a very strong outpost, so white immediately counteracts with bishop to g2, preparing to eliminate this knight on e4 at the correct time. And now black responds with h5, maybe putting pressure on the g4 square, preventing maybe this unpleasant g4 pawn push. And now finally white occupies this e5 square with his knight. Of course, black can capture, but bishop recaptures with the tempo, attacking the rook. Now black has decided not to do that, so in the game black plays bishop goes to c5. Again, attacking bishop on d4, offering the trade. Well, white does trade, but white has decided to play bishop captures on e4. And of course, black doesn't want to have a 3-pawn island, so black plays d-pawn captures on e4. And white responds with bishop goes back to c3. So white is not interested in the trading dark square bishop anymore, and is preparing some very sneaky tricks. Well, let's say you might think black can capture pawn on a2, but if bishop captures on a2, well, bishop was defending this pawn on g6. So after knight captures on g6, attacking the queen, who is the only defender of this d8 square, preventing this unpleasant rook to d8. Well, let's see, if queen goes to f7, we simply have rook to d8 check. Now black can either interfere with queen, because if he doesn't, after, let's say, king to h7, it's queen to h5 checkmate. And if, for example, queen to h7 defended this h5 pawn, then we have rook to d8 check. King can, let's say, only go to f7, but after knight to e5, black is lost, king is under attack. After, let's say, king to e7, we have simply rook to h8, attacking the queen. Black has no other option but to capture the rook, and after knight to g6 is discovered attack on the king and the queen. So the bottom line is this pawn on a2 is untouchable. And maybe black could try with king to h7, defending this pawn on g6, and later his light square bishop on f7 would be free. That would probably be the best option. But in the game, black makes the first in the series of mistakes and plays bishop to b4, trying to trade this bishop, and white responds with knight captures a bishop on f7. Of course, queen could capture, but queen is defending a bishop on f4, who is attacked by the bishop, so queen cannot capture. And if, for example, king capture on f7, we have bishop to e5 attacking the rook. So, well, rook would have to go here to c6, defending this d6 square, because after that white would play a3. Now bishop cannot go to a5 because of b4, and bishop is trapped. And if, for example, bishop goes to c5, again we have b4, bishop has to go back to d6, and after c5, rook is under attack and has to go somewhere, and this bishop on d6 would be then a double attack. And if, for example, bishop would go immediately to d6, well, in this case, queen goes to b5, attacking again one of the defenders of bishop on d6. Of course, queen could defend the rook and the bishop, but after queen to d5, it's check, and also further putting pressure on this bishop on d6. King can go to e7. Yeah, this bishop is 3 times attacked, 3 times defended, but after queen to g8, invading the black camp, black is done. Let's say one of the variations is if bishop captures on e5, at pawn recaptures. Even if queen capture, we simply have a queen to d8. Let's say king can go to f7 or e6. Let's say after king to e6, queen to d7, and both king and rook is under attack, and black is losing. There are some other variations, but in all of them, black is lost. So the bottom line is black cannot capture a knight on f7. Instead, black plays bishop captures on f3. And now white responds with knight goes to h6 check. Well, now you see white king should be on h7. Then direct check would not be possible. Black responds with king goes to h7. And white plays knight captures on a5, attacking the queen. Of course, bishop on c3 is still hanging, but currently queen is under attack. Now let's see if g-pawn captures on f5. We have queen to h5 check. If, let's say, king goes to g7, white simply captures bishop, and of course rook can capture, but then queen captures pawn on f5. Either way, white is 2 pawns up and is winning this endgame. So in the game, black plays queen goes to e6, attacking this knight with the queen, and white responds by removing knight to h4. This bishop on c3 is still under attack. Maybe the best option would simply be bishop to f6, maybe trying to trade it for this knight. Again, white would be still a pawn up and would be better, but still white would maybe try to seek his chances in the game. Endgame, maybe trying somehow to save the draw. But in this position, black makes a fatal blunder and plays queen captures on a2. Of course, b-pawn cannot capture the bishop because then queen on e2 is for free. So white responds with f5, attacking this knight on g6. Now, g-pawn can either capture or maybe play g5. Let's say black plays g5. We simply have queen to h5 check. If king goes to g8 immediately, we have this rook to d8 with immediate checkmate in the next move. If king goes to g7, queen to g6 check. After king to f8, we have rook to d8 check, king to e7, queen to d6 check, king to f7, and queen to f8 checkmate. So in the game, black plays queen captures on b2, trying to trade queens. Of course, white is not interested, and first plays f-pawn captures on g6 check. If king goes to, let's say, g7 or g8, simply queen to h5 with a deadly attack here on the last rank. So black plays king goes to h6, defending this pawn on h5, and now white responds with queen to f1, preparing deadly attack here on f8. Let's say black makes a random move, let's say a5, we have queen to f8 check. If black defends check with the bishop to g7, queen to f4 is checkmate. And if, for example, king goes to the only place, g5, again we have queen to f4 checkmate. So in the game, black plays bishop to e5, protecting this f4 square, and now again white continues with the attack. Queen goes to f8 check. King has no other option but to play king to g5, and now white plays g7, preparing this g8, promoting to queen. But of course, white wants to deflect this rook from c7 because rook can attack king on the first rank. So black plays rook captures this pawn on g7. Now check on the first rank is no longer possible, and now white plays rook goes to f1, preparing deadly attack on the f file. Black responds with queen to c3, maybe trying queen to a3 with check, but it's too late. White plays rook goes to f5 check. Now black has the two options, either go to h6 or g4. If king goes to h6, we have queen to h8, and now king cannot go anywhere and can only defend the check with rook to h7, but then we have rook to h5 check, and king can only capture on h5, but after queen to h7 check. If king goes to g5, queen to g6 checkmate. If king goes to g4, it's queen to f5 checkmate. So in the game, black plays king goes to g4, and now white simply responds with king to g2, preparing h3 with checkmate. So black tries with queen to d2 check. White defends the check with rook to f2, attacking the queen and also threatening with queen to f5 with the checkmate. So black defends with queen to d7. Now mate here on f5 is no longer possible, but still we have mate in 3 moves. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to find it. White plays queen to f4 check. King cannot go anywhere and can only capture the queen with bishop, and now simply e-pawn recaptures on f4. Now king cannot go. King cannot escape, and is going to be checkmate in the next move. In the game, therefore, out e3, and now white played h3, and it was checkmate. So I hope you like this game. I hope you have learned something from it. If you have any questions, my email is below in the description. Of course, I invite you to visit my Instagram page. That's it for now, and see you soon.